All right, let's talk about something we've probably all felt at some point. That nagging feeling when you're being pushed into a deal or promise that just doesn't sit right. Today, we're putting a name to that feeling and digging into the powerful legal idea behind it.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Was it a salesperson who just wouldn't take no for an answer? Or maybe a family member who was so insistent it felt like you didn't really have a choice? That sensation, where your own will kind of gets steamrolled by someone else's, that's exactly where we're going today. And it turns out that's not just a feeling. The law actually has a specific name for this: undue influence. It's a real legal concept, and it's designed to protect people when they're in exactly those kinds of vulnerable spots. So what does it actually mean? Okay, here's the textbook definition. It's when one person has so much power or sway over another that they can basically overpower that person's free will to get an unfair deal. Now, we're not talking about threats or physical force here. This is much more subtle, you know? It's a kind of psychological pressure. So how does a court figure this out? Well, it really boils down to a simple two-step test. First, you have to show that one person actually had the power to dominate the other. But that's not enough. Step 2 is crucial. You have to show they actually used that power to get themselves an unfair advantage. You gotta have both pieces of the puzzle. So that leads to the next logical question, right? Where does this kind of power, this ability to dominate, even come from? Well, the law pretty much sees it coming from two very different places, two different kinds of relationships. You've got these two big buckets, really. On one side, you have relationships that are all about power and authority. One person is just clearly in charge. But on the other side, you've got something completely different. Relationships built on deep trust and confidence. Let's break those down.
All right, let's tackle that first path, authority. This is the more obvious one. We're talking about those clear-cut situations where one person is just naturally in a position to tell another person what to do.
The classic examples are, a parent and a child or a boss and an employee. But check this out. It also includes something called apparent authority. This could be like a senior student who acts like they have official power over a junior to get them to do something. The wild part is the authority doesn't even have to be real. As long as the other person believes it's real, it counts.
Now, this second path, it's a whole different ballgame. It has nothing to do with raw power or dominance. Instead, it's all about a very special kind of relationship, one where a person has put their complete and total trust in someone else to look out for them. These are called fiduciary relationships. Think about it. Your lawyer and you, your doctor and you, a trustee and the person they're managing money for. In all these cases, one person has a legal and an ethical duty to act only in the best interests of the other. Abusing that trust is a huge deal. So we've got these two very distinct paths, right? One is defined by dominance and the other is defined by duty. And you have to understand this difference because legally speaking, it changes absolutely everything. Let's just lay it all out, side by side. With authority, the whole issue is about the misuse of dominance to get an unfair advantage. But with a fiduciary relationship, the issue is a breach of a duty to act in the other person's best interest. See the difference? It's abusing power versus abusing trust. So why have we been hammering this point home? Why does this distinction between dominance and duty matter so much? Because once a court establishes that one of these relationships exists, it triggers a massive, game-changing shift in how the whole case works. And that game changer has a name: the burden of proof. Now, normally, if you go to court and accuse someone of something, the burden is on you to prove it. But in these specific cases of undue influence, the law completely flips the script. This right here, this is the law flexing its protective muscles. If you are the person in that position of power, the one who can dominate, it's no longer up to the other person to prove they were taken advantage of. Nope. The burden is now on you to prove that the deal was fair, that it was honest, and that you didn't use your influence. The powerful person has to prove their own innocence. Okay, we've gone from that weird gut feeling all the way to a major legal principle that can turn a court case on its head. So, what are the big things you should really walk away with from all this? The most important thing to remember is that the law isn't blind. It sees that power imbalances exist. And whether that power comes from straight-up authority or from a relationship of sacred trust, the system has this incredible mechanism built in to protect the more vulnerable person. It shifts the entire burden of proof to act as a shield against exploitation. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. This isn't just some abstract theory from a law book. It's about the real relationships we all have.
So it's worth asking yourself, who in your life holds power and who holds your trust? Because understanding this stuff helps us see the huge responsibility that comes with both.